why our bees die. We make these accusations that my bees died for this reason and that reason. So pay close attention, because I've been working with a lot of beekeepers here last week and surveying beekeepers as to why they think their bees died. And so I want to talk about that tonight. Let's jump right into my teaching tonight. Why are so many hives dying? And it's very confusing at times, isn't it? Why bees die. And I really think what I've noticed here lately, what I've been hearing is this fall, more than any other time that I can remember since I've been keeping bees, I've heard more people talking about losing more hives in the fall this year than I ever have before. And that is amazing. So what do you think? Well, a lot of people say that, they say wax moths. My bees died from yellow jackets or from mites. They died from starvation, small hive beetle. They died from cold weather in the winter. They died from some type of poison, chemicals or sprays or some illegal treatments. Sometimes people have told me their bees died because their bees were eaten by birds. Birds kept eating bees. Sometimes bees die because they're being robbed, people will say. Some people say their bees died because of insectivores like skunks. Others say bear attacks. Maybe people will say even deer can rub up against the hive, knock it over. Some people say bees die from chicken. Some people say bees die. I think my bees died from being overfed, or I had queen issues, a lack of brood in the hive. Or maybe some beekeepers have even admitted that their bees died from poor beekeeping skills. So what is the real reason that bees are dying? Now, it could never be our fault, right? I mean, it's got to be somebody else's fault. It's got to be 5G. It does have to be farm chemicals. It's got to be, hey, we all kind of fall back on this at times. I don't think the guy that sold me these bees, I don't think the bees were very good. I don't think the queens were very good. We had a poor queen. That's why the hive didn't do good. And of course, if our bees died in the wintertime, we can always say, yeah, it's just too cold. My bees couldn't make it. And of course, I hear a lot of people tell me their bees died from wax moths. And so it's interesting to me that rarely do I ever hear anyone say that bees can simply die from things like natural causes. Like if you look at people or animals, look at your pets. I was thinking about this when I was preparing this teaching today. And I thought of all the pets that I've ever had, dogs, cats. I think that's maybe I've had other pets, but those are the obvious two. All of the pets that we've ever had when our kids were little, you know how kids are, they have to have a dog or a cat or something, right? And we live out in the country. There's always something that happens to those animals, or they either die of natural causes. All the pets that I've ever had have died because pets don't live as long as humans. So any pets that you have, those pets probably you're going to outlive your pets, right? So they died of natural causes. I've had the last dog we had, she was so old, she lived so long, dog years, that she just was bad off and we had to put her down. So bees are the same way. Even if everything goes perfect, even if everything goes great, and they don't have all the issues that we just talked about, bees can just simply perish. They're an animal. They're in the animal kingdom. Of course, a lot of people think that viruses only come from the mites. A lot of people think that bees die from mite bites that spread viruses. But let me tell you this, there's a lot of viruses that have been around long before the Varroa destructor mite was in our country. So bees have had mite problem or virus problems long before we had mite problems. So just remember, just like humans, bees can get viruses. Even if you keep your mite levels down, they can get viruses that aren't transferred by mites. Also, I think sometimes our bees perish simply because of a combination of bad luck. Really. It's not because you didn't treat for mites. It's not because you didn't provide enough food. It's not because you didn't give them enough room or control swarm cells and all that. Just a combination of bad luck. What would bad luck be? Well, let's say that their queen died of natural causes, old age, some kind of birth defect or something. She wasn't a good layer. Now they have to replace their queen. And so they have to have young larvae to raise queen, superseding queen cells. When they raise those cells, those queens have to emerge and not have some kind of virus that queens can get. And those queens then have to brave what? 2.5 miles of flight out there to a drone congregation area, flying in the wild to get mated and fly back home again. And let's face it, if she doesn't make it back, they don't have anything young enough to raise another queen from. So everything is banked on one queen. So if that fails, their hive is doomed. That's a combination of bad luck. So sometimes beekeepers aren't really responsible, but the hive is just having a lot of bad luck that's piled up on top. So bee deaths seems unacceptable to beekeepers, and that surprises me. Beekeepers really do take it hard, take it personal. When their bees die, they really seem to let it touch their ego. They're like, oh my gosh, my bees died. I did something wrong. Somebody else did something wrong. And so I'd like to hear back from you guys. What do you think? Well, I'm going to drop back to this slide that I looked at earlier. See all these things that we say bees die from? Now, let me just talk about this for a minute. Wax moths. Bees do not die from wax moths. Beekeepers think they do because when a beekeeper looks in their hive after it has kind of died and wax moths have moved in, they see very few bees, torn up comb, and they see wax moths and they conclude the wax moths did all this. No, wax moths are a cleanup crew. They come in after the hive perishes or gets really weak. So wax moths do not kill hives. They only come into very weak and dying, almost dead hives. Yellow jackets, a strong colony can defend itself against yellow jackets. However, sometimes a very strong colony can be overcome by a large amount of yellow jackets attacking at once. So sometimes yellow jackets can overtake and destroy a colony. But most of the time, if you don't live in a heavily infested yellow jacket area, bees can keep the yellow jackets at bay. We already know about mites. We can control mites and for the most part, keep those levels down. Starvation, yeah, bees can die of starvation. In the wintertime especially, that concerns us. Small hive beetle, not really. They can abscond from small hive beetle, if they really get in there and they take over heavily. But it's not that small hive beetle go in there and kill them. Cold weather, again, that's only if our colony is weak. That's only if they don't have enough bees of winter physiology to stay warm. That's only if they don't have enough population. Cold weather does not kill bees unless we have a very weak colony. Poisons, absolutely. There are a lot of poisons out there today. If bees get into, it will kill them. Yes. Chemicals, that's what I mean. There are some farm chemicals that farmers sometimes have to spray to kill pesticides on like soybeans and all, and it kills almost every insect there is around the neighborhood. So yeah, chemicals can kill our bees, like sprays. But a lot of the farm chemicals are more and more, I guess, not so hard on bees as they once were. Farmers are trying to make a more concerted effort to really not kill bees when they have to spray. Illegal treatments. Now, this is interesting because I do think sometimes beekeepers have always used some type of illegal treatment, something that's not quite legal. It's not a label. It's not described for controlling a pest in the hive, but beekeepers will mix some kind of concoction. They may even mix 2 or 3 or 4 things together. and hopefully all those 4 things will do the 4 things they're supposed to do, but mixed together, they can really be detrimental to bees. Birds, not so much. Birds will just nibble at a few bees here and there, but rarely are birds going to eat enough bees to really kill a hive. Robbers can overcome a hive, yes. Insectivores, not so much, like a skunk or something. They can irritate them, but again, the bees can keep that away. Bears can kill hives. Deers, not so much. Chickens, not so much. Overfeeding, that's an interesting thing. I think it's very, very difficult to overfeed a colony to the point where they would die. Now, I think if we stretch this out and examine it, what we're saying is if they store too much of what we feed them, they don't have room to grow. And if they don't have room to grow, they can't grow and survive. But rarely have I seen personally bees that overfeed themselves and become honey bound or pollen bound. They can, but given enough room, they'll keep using those resources to grow and expand, make more comb, lay more eggs. Queen issues, that's what I spoke about earlier. If you do have a colony where you have queen issues, maybe that queen didn't get mated and she got ate by a bird on a mating flight or something. And as a beekeeper, we don't know that until it's kind of too late. And if we don't get or buy or make another queen to replace her, yeah, they'll perish without a queen. They have to have brood. And that's the next point. Lack of brood, it just means there's a poor laying queen. And so on their own, they're always going to supersede a poor laying queen unless they get into a scenario where something happens and she doesn't make it back from a mating flight. Now, poor beekeeping skill does fall back on us because all the things that I just mentioned that do kill bees, most of those are preventable by the beekeeper. We can put a bear fence up and keep the bears out, right? We can put little boards of nails in front of the hive to keep skunks out of it. We can control our mites. I mean, all the things. We can watch our queens carefully, make sure they don't perish. We can inspect our hive every 2 weeks, make sure that these things that kill bees aren't killing our bees. But having said that, it's still possible. It still happens that we can do simply everything there is. Take any beekeeper that you know right now, commercial, sideliner, or hobbyist, entomologist, YouTube star on beekeeping, whoever, guarantee you they've lost a hive. They've lost a hive. So everyone can lose a hive no matter what you do. And that's something that we always battle with. But just don't buy into the fact that bees are dying for the wrong reason. There's a lot of things. I made a video I think last week, where I said some people think that bees are dying from 5K. Some people think that bees are dying from aliens that are taking our bees away. And some people even believe that God is rapturing up all of the honeybees to keep them from dying on the planet. And there are a lot of wild claims as to what is happening to bees, especially when colony collapse disorder happened around 2006. A lot of people had a lot of wild speculations about why bees are dying. But I think the takeaway message that I want to share with you guys tonight is that really bees are going to do their own thing. And sometimes we think that we can totally control them and we can totally manipulate everything about honeybees and their health. And we can to a large extent, but not totally. And so you have to be patient with this craft of beekeeping, knowing that sometimes it can be very challenging. And when it happens, when we lose a colony, it is hard to do a forensic analysis of what happened. Everybody wants an answer. I can't tell you of the number of people when their colony dies, they'll send me pictures of a bunch of dead bees. They'll send me a picture of the comb. They'll say, why did my bees die? Here's a picture of all my dead bees. Why did they die? Here's a picture of my comb. There's bee labs that can't even answer it if you send them dead bees or comb with no larvae in it. They can't answer it either. While a colony is alive, you can assess it, but once they're dead, really hard to figure it out why they died. So you always have to fall back on your notes, what happened during the year, and why your bees died by looking through your notes, looking at your mite counts. That's a big one. Now, early on when I was helping people in beekeeping, maybe 20 years ago, when mites were they've been in the country a while 20 years ago, but a lot of beekeepers 20 years ago didn't really want to face up to the facts that mites were a problem. So a lot of people asked me, why did my mites die? And my next question was always, what did you do to control your mites? And their response was always, I don't have mites, because they couldn't see them and they never tested. And so they just weren't looking. And so at that point, if somebody said to me, I don't have mites, I couldn't go any further and analyze why their bees died, because until we knocked that one off the list, it probably was mites, the viruses that might spread. So that's kind of my take on why bees are dying. It's mainly because of all the pressure points that bees are facing, a combination of a lot of things. And beekeepers, we're here to neutralize a lot of those sources of why bees die. And we can, but we're not perfect at it. We're still going to lose hives. Yeah, still going to lose some hives. All right, everybody. Going to take some time for questions here in a minute, but here's bobblehead David, featured in some of my videos recently, and he's wearing a bee suit and some sunglasses. Please subscribe. If you're watching this live, you can hit the subscribe button, or if you're watching the replay, you can hit subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. That always helps our videos a lot when you give us a thumbs up. It's good to be with you guys on the live chat tonight. Some people wonder if we're live, but we really are live. If you're watching us right at 7 o'clock, watch us roll. I want to give a shout out tonight before we get into questions for Sherry and Robbie and Jessica, doing a great job running the live stream tonight. We do have a giveaway coming up, so stay tuned for that. So let's get into some question and answer times. Questions and answers. We do have our online classes on sale starting on Thanksgiving Day, 50% off, so be sure and take advantage of that. Hey, Carrie, what's your thoughts on using GrubX to control hive beetle larvae in the soil around hives? Carrie, I want to answer this. GrubX kills grubs in the ground. If you look at the label carefully, it does not include small hive beetle. Therefore, it's not a legal way or legal approach to killing small hive beetle. In that sense, in other words, the label is not for small hive beetle. However, if you're somebody like me that uses it to control grubs, because if you don't, you get moles that eat those grubs, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I've been using GrubX to kill all the other grubs, but boy, it killed all my small hive beetle larvae too. It's amazing what it does to kill small hive beetle larvae. It will kill every one of them in the ground. Absolutely. Hey, Brenda. And oh, by the way, GrubX lasts a long time. It lasts several months, 6-8 months. And you just throw it down there and let it you can throw it around your hives. It does not hurt, hasn't ever hurt my bees when I've used it around my hives. So it's amazing. Yeah. Hey, Pamela, first year beekeeper. Congratulations. Welcome to the awesome craft of beekeeping. Going into winter with 5 hives. Is it the first hard frost that signals the bees to kick the drones out? I've not had a hard frost. I still have drones. It's a combination of a lot of things. It can be a combination of cold weather, dearth, shorter days. The bees just have to understand that we're going through a season when we don't have good honey flow, nectar flow right now, and we don't need our drones hanging out here anymore. So yeah, it can be usually a hard frost, a cold weather, a dearth. But know this, that sometimes there are drones that do overwinter. Some people think all the drones are kicked out. They're not. It's not uncommon at all to see some drones go along with the cluster all through winter. I've seen that a lot. I want to thank you guys for making your donations to the live stream tonight in the super chat. So thanks so much. Hey, Mark, I have completed your online beekeeping course. Do you recommend any other online courses afterward? The ultimate course is going to be 50% off the Black Friday weekend and all. Mark, that you got all the courses that I offer. Now, I do have a program called Bee Team 6, and that is a program where I continue to mentor and teach beekeepers through Bee Team 6, usually with pretty periodic teachings that I send out, and I'm always answering questions, emails from Bee Team 6 members. So that's something else you might consider if you enjoy my classes. Yeah. David, what's the best way to encourage your queen to recover from hard mite treatments in fall and get back to solid, non-patchy laying? I'm going to say that that's pretty risky. If it's possible that the queen wasn't injured by that treatment, then it might just be a matter of picking up the population enough where her retinue can feed her adequately for her to lay well. But on the other hand, sometimes that treatment could have injured her. It could have actually affected her laying ability. So it might be advantageous to replace that queen if after a treatment, she is laying a spotty brood pattern and you still have good population. I would replace that queen. Absolutely. Yep. Hey, Tom. Tom, appreciate your donation tonight. Thanks for your help. What are your thoughts on excessive mite treatments and bee mortality? Hello, Sherry, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the U.S. Tom, I don't think any of us really enjoy excessive mite treatment. Now, I do know some people that are so passionate about killing mites so much that they really do treat hard and heavy, and they treat often, and sometimes they go beyond the label and do everything they can. When their livelihood depends on it, they really do throw caution to the wind when it comes to labels. But label is the law. I think that we are totally new to this. And let me just give you an example. When fluvalvanate and Coumaphos first came out to help us with our bees, synthetic treatments of mites, it took us a minute in the beekeeping community, took us years to realize, ooh, this is bad for our bees. It's being absorbed in the wax and so on. Some of these things we haven't had long enough. We haven't had some of these treatments 20 or 30 years yet to see what ramifications they have long term. I'm wondering, I know I've heard all the reports. These chemical companies will do studies and say it's not hard on bees. It doesn't hurt bees. It doesn't get absorbed in the wax. It works well. It doesn't, we hear all these things, but they also told us it was good to eat margarine instead of butter, and then they changed their mind. So, I don't know if anybody likes margarine anymore. And I don't know. I'm not a sucker to believe that these treatments are not trouble-free, and especially long-term. I'm wondering in 5 or 10 years if we're going to wake up one day and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe we were using fill in the blank chemical to kill our mites. We had no idea it was doing this to our bees. That's the part that worries me, Tom. Hey, Katie, thank you for everything. What viruses occur unrelated to mites? I don't have a list of that. I was in Iowa and a virologist was listing them, and I did not jot them down. But when it comes right down to it, the one that we're most concerned about with mites is deformed wing viruses and its various strains. But the deformed wing virus is the one that we contribute mostly to mites, and the one that I think worry about the most with mites. But there are others. Yep. And I forget how many, but there's a lot, actually. If I knew them, I probably couldn't pronounce them anyway. I'm going to look that up, though. I was hoping he was going to give me a list. Hey, Gary, how do virgin queen bees know where the drones are to mate with? Gary, that's a very good question. Drones hang out in drone congregation areas, usually a mile and a half to 2 to 3 miles away from their hive. And no, a little bit shorter than that, but the queen will fly a great distance to get away from her brothers. And so this is one of the greatest mysteries of honeybees. How do the drones know where they should all hang out together? And then how do the virgin queens know where all those drones are that are a mile or two away? How does all that work year after year? It is a mystery. There's been work done, but I'm surprised we don't have more information about that. Yeah, some people speculate the virgin queen is escorted to these drone congregation areas by scout bees that have been looking for nectar, and they discovered the DCAs they're called, and then they escort the queen on her date. Don't really know how that works. We're still learning about that. Lot to discover on that one for sure. Hey, my question: my hives doesn't seem to have much brood. 1/3 of 5 to 6 frames. Everything else is capped honey. Should I be concerned? Let's see, 1/3, 5 or 6. So you got some brood on 5 or 6 frames, it sounds like. That could be typical of the type of a queen that you have, that her genetics might just be that she doesn't lay a lot of brood this time of the year if there's not a nectar flow. I don't know where you live, Mike, if it's really cold, if you live up north like I do. I can get by with that number of frames of brood if I feed them heavily all winter long. Because they'll raise more brood as I feed them all winter. If I'm not going to feed them all, I'm going to wrap them up, close the door, never see them again till April, then I would be concerned, because I know they wouldn't be able to raise as much brood if they don't have a steady flow of some type of food that they can eat. Hey, Gene. What's the typical losses of bees per hive in a year? 2 brood boxes and 1 super. What is the typical losses of bees per hive in a year? John Zavishlak and I did a few hours one day studying how many bees die from a package and what number of bees are replaced by brood. And, there's probably a lot of math that people have done on this with spreadsheets. But if you're thinking the queen is laying about 1,500 eggs a day, and that most of those are probably maturing into adult bees, not all of them do. But those bees are dying after about 35 to 45 days in the summertime. Some of those are dying sooner because they're being eaten by birds and they're not making it back to their hive. The number of bees that are dying, I don't know that number, but I take comfort in the fact that what the queen can do can outproduce the number of bees that are dying, so that the colony is always growing. Look at it that way, okay? So there's a lot less bees dying than the overlap of dying bees than the overlap of bees that the queen's producing most of the time. Hey, Melissa, first year beak in Maine. All right. First year beekeeper. Last inspection, everything looked good. Now lots of dead bees in front of the hive, and even pupae that they're even hauling out. Is this normal? Do I have to wait things out at this point of the year? Melissa, this does definitely sound like drones. It really does. They pull out drone pupae because they don't want them to mature. They don't want to pull them out alive. So look at your dead bees closely and determine if they're drones. The drones have large eyes. Their eyes touch each other, where worker bees' eyes don't touch each compound eye. Drones are bulkier size. If it's not drones and it's worker bees, it could just have gotten really cold and they didn't cluster. Some bees died outside the cluster. It may be normal. Remember, all your summer bees are dying off at a pretty good clip right now. Yeah, a lot of our worker bees that from summer die off really quickly, and they do make a pile for sure. That's why you need bees of winter physiology. Yep, absolutely. All right. How do you tell the difference between a virgin queen or a mated queen? Well, one time I did it this way. I got my dissecting microscope and I put a queen in there. I carefully dissected into her abdomen and went in and observed the spermatheca to see if it was clear, which means she's a virgin, or if it's cloudy, then that spermatheca would contain sperm from 20 plus drones and she would be mated. Other than that, there's no way to tell. And if you dissect a queen, you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So there's no way to tell. Now you can only tell by their actual laying eggs in the hive. Sometimes I will say if you showed me a virgin queen that's less than 2 days old, 3 days old, or a mated queen, I can tell you the difference. I can watch their runniness on the frame. Mated queen is going to be slow moving, and a virgin queen is going to be moving around like other worker bees. And I think that a virgin queen has a much, I'm going to say, smaller abdomen because she's not full, her ovaries, ovarils, and all don't have a bunch of eggs in them. She's not pregnant, so to speak. So I think the abdomen of a mated queen is much larger than that of a virgin queen. But it is hard to tell to the untrained eye that hasn't seen that a lot. What type of terrain and topography makes a drone congregation area? How do they get established? A lot of people only speculate about this, Chris. We speculate that edge of a field where there's a whole bunch of trees are growing, a distinct landmark. We think there's some degree of identifying topography, like you're talking about, that signifies that's the best place that drones should hang out. And there has been studies done on this. And that way, the drones know where to go, and the queens may know exactly too instinctively that when they see that kind of topography, that there could be a possible DCA in that area. But this is a lot of work is still being done in this. We're still unsure. Hello, John. What are your thoughts on creating winter sugar blocks in a deep frame, say in the top 1/3 of the frame? I actually did that. I actually made frames. I think I even sold them at one time, but I actually made like a candy board, but took the place of a frame. And I did not, I wasn't crazy about it because, the bees cluster in the wintertime where I live. That cluster can go everywhere and anywhere, but it can always go up, but it doesn't always cover sideways. You know what I mean? So if you put it in the middle, the cluster may go to the right of that or to the left of that. So I didn't like the idea of giving up a whole frame just for sugar. And I noticed that bees weren't crazy about it either. I even left a 3-inch circle in the middle so the cluster could have more room to kind of hang out in the middle of that sugar frame. But it's hard to get the sugar to stick to it. It just didn't really work well. Not like having sugar above them. Yep. What other questions are on your mind? Hey, Ross, thanks for the donation. Do we need to use smoke when installing your winter bee kind boards? Yes. Always use smoke, even in cold weather. Sometimes I change my winter bee kind boards when it's cold outside and I have my smoker going because the bees are going to want to fly up and out. They're warm and cozy, remember? And so they'll fly and they'll surprise you on a cold day how much, you'll get 10 or 20 that will fly you. And I don't know. I don't like getting stung by 10 or 20 bees. I would never go out and change a winter bee kind without a hat and a veil on, protective gear, and a smoker going. Smoker helps me too because sometimes I need to smoke the bees off the old winter bee kind that they're mostly done with, and I need to put a new winter bee kind board on. So that smoking helps me control the bees on a cold day too. Yep. It doesn't hurt bees to open the top on a cold day if you do it within a minute. Could not Get Formic Pro out, kill bees? Could not getting Formic Pro out of the hive kill the bees? It's too cold now to open the hive. No, it's not going to kill your bees. I think the Formic Pro kind of vaporizes out after the first few days. And in many cases, that Formic Pro gel blob, I've had it go away before, completely gone. So I think most of these times we do have the label that will say remove it after this many days and all, but I've also seen it where it's just sometimes gone after so many days. I wouldn't be too concerned about that at all. If it was something else like Viroxan, for example, or some of these other treatments where it can stay longer in there and you're supposed to take it out in 42 or 56 days, then if you don't, you could start developing resistance. The mites could develop resistance. What do you think of the new OA strips? Now, that's what I just said, the Viroxan strips. I started using them. They didn't become available to beekeepers until late last year, and my weather turned a little bit too cold, too fast for me to really do some good studies on it. I hate that. My initial studies on it, I'm not going to say because it's not fair. The weather didn't give me a chance to really do anything, but I really want to use them in the spring, and I can do a more thorough test. It sounds very promising, and I'm very hopeful. I really am, but I got to really run them through in a good season. Yeah. Is it too early to place candy boards, especially on a small colony? No, I don't think so. If you make candy boards the way we do, we make it so where the heat of the colony helps make the candy more edible by the bees. And you don't want to put them on too early and it turns 90 degrees because the candy board is going to be too melty, kind of runny. If it's a large colony, that melting sugar board can be consumed by a large colony. A small colony kind of gets sticky, may not be good for them. Good question. Oh, hey, Jack. How did you do bees and do family? I have 6 children and it feels like I rushed down to do the bare minimum in my apiary. Thanks for the videos. I've learned a lot. Jack, that's a legitimate question. I had 6 children also, and we still have one at home, Christian. And boy, he's a godsend. The guy's taller than I am. He's muscular. He lifts all my heavy stuff. I'm becoming a weakling now because I'm like, hey, Christian, go out and pick that big heavy thing up there. I don't have to do that anymore. But it was tough. We ran a family business raising our children, and we homeschooled our children, most of them. So, we were working and teaching and doing everything at home. So yeah, it was very, very challenging at times. I'm going to say this though, that what's more challenging for me as a beekeeper than my family, having a large family, is making videos. That really is, to be honest with you, that's a killer for me. It's a killer for my bees. So in other words, I've said this before, but I've got 20 or 30 hives here that I play in, and I don't treat them the way that I should because I'm in a hive, I film it, I get the footage, I run back to the edit room, and I'll spend 6-8 hours editing, and then I don't ever make it back to that hive to take care of its queenless state or its beetle problems. And I need one person I keep adding people to my team. I need a team member that will be the beekeeper of the YouTube studio bees. Yay! That would be great. That would be awesome. Somebody to tend to that. Like, okay, David, you filmed, you ruined this hive. Go away. We'll fix it. It'd be so great because, I value making these videos and helping you guys, but my bees suffer for it. So it wasn't the family. It's a video making that really makes it suffer now. But you're right. It's a hard thing to do. Hey, Anthony, what's the actual happening with small hive beetle slime, a hive? Does that leave the frames wet looking? Absolutely. The wandering stage of the small hive beetle larvae just will consume everything in their path. and they defecate this slimy stuff all over the place that smells like rotten oranges, and it's liquidy. It drips out of the hive. The bees will finally abandon ship and get out of there. It's bad. It drips out of the hive. You don't ever want that to happen. If you ever get a hive that's slimed by a small hive beetle, you will be so aggressive about killing every beetle near your colonies. So that's what's happening. And yeah, it's not good for bees. Let's have a couple of more questions, then we'll have a giveaway, okay? Hey, Leslie, I hear people talk about the flavor of their honey. How do you know, since bees can go everywhere, is there a resource out there to understand honey flavors? That's interesting. I remember several conferences I've been to, there have been people there with all the different tastes. Iowa, where I spoke last month at their state conference, they actually had a gentleman there who gave me a jar of honey. Thank you very much. But he had, 10, 15 jars of labeled honey that you could taste. That's one way where you can get familiar with the different tastes. Now, blindfold me and give me orange blossom, nailed it. I know what that is, blindfolded. Clover honey, that's what we raise. I can always detect that. Buckwheat, that dark honey, always know what that tastes like. There's just some definite flavors that you cannot confuse. But then there's other flavors, just like you say, that are so muddled together and mixed together that without doing a pollen analysis, you don't know where all that honey came from. It's really hard to tell. Now, there are some people that are really honey experts. They've been around the block long enough. They tasted it all, and they can taste it, and they can tell you what it is. And you don't know whether they're right or wrong because they act so confident. You just have to believe them. They might be making all that up. I don't know. I got used to hives from a friend. I got used hives from a friend. What is your opinion on using the frames that already have comb on them with a new package? I think it's safe to do if there's been no evidence of diseases, like we're worried about American foul brood, European foul brood, the brood diseases in those comb. But if you haven't had that, that's probably okay to do that. It's always good to have an inspector put eyes on it, I think. One more, and then we're going to have a giveaway. One more question. Good questions tonight. This is a live stream with heart and compassion and good questions. I like that. Family friendly too. Isn't that nice? I lost 5 hives this fall. See, a lot of people are losing hives this fall. I find that incredible, just incredibly disturbing. I'm sorry too that it happened to you. No bees in the hive and lots of honey. That's what other people have said. You've treated for mites. Don't know what happened. When colony collapse hit 2006 or 7, that was the same characteristics that people said about that disorder. And they said that there were just no bees left. The bees were gone, maybe a few bees, but honey was there and all the bees were gone. I don't know if it was something like that. You said you treated for mites. I'd like to know if you treated. It seems, I'm not going to say it because I don't have hard data, but there is a treatment that everybody said that they used, but I don't know if that's a direct correlation about the treatment made it happen, but they seem to all have used a certain type of treatment. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did. That's what I'm saying. It's really hard to know why these things happen like that. It's almost like they absconded, isn't it? That's what it looks like. Because you probably didn't, everyone else is saying they didn't have a bunch of dead bees on the bottom. They're just gone, like they absconded. All right, the giveaway that we're going to have tonight is a Beak Squad hat. We use the term Beak Squad around here. That's all of you great people that come to the live stream and share Thursday night with all of us. And we have a great time in the chat. I wish I could just get into the chat and talk to you guys, but as you can tell, I'm trying to focus on answering questions and teaching and all. It's hard for me to watch the chat, and that's why my team does. I'd love to get in the chat because I think the chat is awesome. You guys have such a fun time in the chat, I hear, and I'd love to get in there and just chit chat with you guys. One time we'll have to let Robbie and Jessica and Sherry have this seat, and I'll just stay in the chat and I'll just talk with you guys. But it's great to have you all, and we like to give some stuff back to the live stream like this hat. So anyway, you're the Beak Squad, And it's Beak because I'm known as Beak on my YouTube handle, they call it. YouTube calls it a handle. And you're the squad. You're the great people that are so loyal to be here every night and appreciate it so much. So hat, you could win a Beak Squad hat. Not a bad looking hat even on me. And I don't even think I look that good in hats, but this isn't bad. So Beak Squad hat, put hashtag hat in the comment in the chat section. No capital letters, just hashtag hat, and you can have a chance to win a hat. The way this works is we spin a wheel that StreamYard provides for us, and it will choose a winner. And once the winner is shown, then you need to email us within 24 hours so we can ship that out to you. If you live far away where it's going to cost $1 million to ship you a not $1 million hat, we'll have to send you something like an online class or something. All right, Robbie, let's go ahead. Robbie's in charge of all the game winnings today. So let's see who our winner is on our hat tonight. Hashtag hat. All right. I love watching all the names go by. I can see those names better. Look at all those names go by. I recognize that person. I recognize that person. I know that person. I know that person. Some of you are new for the first time. Christine Lane. Has Christine won before? I think I recognize Christine's name, but if not, congratulations. You're the winner, Christine. So be sure and email us within 24 hours. The email address is beaksquadwinner@gmail.com for your hat. Yeah, that's great. Way to go, Christine. That's good. If those of you that want to buy Beak Squad merchandise, Robbie and Candy are the ones that take care of that. Is scrolling by our banner at the bottom. You can go there and actually look at the merchandise. You can buy tumblers. You can, and I do like the tumblers. You can buy shirts and hats with Beak Squad on it. And a lot of you have bought a lot of Beak Squad merchandise, and some of you have had me autograph different things with a white marker, hats and shirts and all. So yeah, if you wanted that, if you want any Beak Squad merchandise, check it out there on the screen flying by. That's awesome. Let me remind you again that on Black Friday, basically Thanksgiving, November 28th through December the 2nd, we have our online courses on sale, 50% off. That's huge. We want to give you guys a chance to get a bunch of classes so you can study all winter long. And they're your courses to keep forever. They're videos of me teaching, showing you stuff in the hive. Maybe what you see on YouTube, but on YouTube, it's not organized. You know, you're not going to be able to take it methodically. In the online courses, I teach methodically. I go maybe a little bit deeper into things like queen rearing, overwintering and all. But yeah, I think you'll really benefit from the online courses. So set a calendar or something to remind you on Thanksgiving Day and that weekend to get some of our classes. That'd be great. All right, let's go back to a few more questions now. We got a few minutes left in the live stream. It's gone by so fast. I think when you're having fun, time flies. All right. Hey, Sherry, when's the best time to split in the spring? Always split your hive when your hives want to do their own splitting. Well, actually do it about a week before. Split your hives a week before they swarm. Perfect. Well, how do I know when they're going to swarm? Yeah, you don't. But yeah, that's a perfect time when you can kind of look in there and you start seeing the formation of queen cells. That's when you can start making your splits. And you can use those queen cells in your splits even. Oh boy, I've been putting some insulation out in our workroom. We're remodeling our workroom and insulation just gets in my throat. When you split in the spring, do you split once? 50-50 or more, looking to increase hives, but not risk losing hives made too small. Yeah, I successfully can split large colonies at least twice, sometimes 4 times. But again, you have to really be an experienced beekeeper, and you don't want to make the hive you're splitting from too small, like you say, because they have to raise their own queen. So I have to make 2 splits out of it. Always have to do 2. Yep. Hey, Jessica. What do you think about K-wing virus in bees after mite treatment? Yeah, K-wing is when the back wing slips in front of the front wing. And we are concerned about K-wing. I have seen some bees that have that funny looking K-wing position that don't have K-wing. That it's just a lazy way of parking their wings, I guess. I don't know, but um do you really know you have K-wing virus, or is that just what you're observing from the bees themselves? But it is hard to know. That these viruses are tough, you know. These viruses are hard to know. Oh, no live stream next week, by the way. Hey, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do about next week. Next week is Thanksgiving on Thursday. So Sherry and I are probably going to pop on here at some point. Don't hold me to this, but this is what we'd love to do. I've made a video of my fireplace in my house. You know, those kind that you see on YouTube and all. Sherry and I might get on there on the live stream just for a minute to say hello, happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy our fireplace for the next hour. So if I can pull that off, that's probably what we're going to do. So we still may check in and say hi. Robbie and Jessica, y'all don't have to come. We're not going to run a chat or anything, but it'd just be a fun time for listening to I had my chimney cleaned, so it's all ready for a good fire. I was expecting Mary Poppins or Dick Van Dyke to clean my chimney or something, chimney sweep it, but it was just a dude. Hey, Charlie, good to see you. Why doesn't the queens meet with the hives that are next to them? Oh, mate with the queen, maybe mate. When they're not brothers, is there a possibility they do? There's been a lot of studies done. There's been a lot of work done on this, actually. And I'm going to say, Charlie, the best thing about nature is that it works pretty darn good. It really does. You make a valid point, but there's this distance thing that the queen is trying to go further than where her drones go. Her brother drones. So if hives are next to her, she's probably going to go further than those drones. Although in my looking at the studies, I noticed that the studies show that there could be a chance of those drones and queens mixing together. But it's kind of hard to have that kind of inbreeding. It's not the easiest thing when it comes to the alleles, sex alleles and all. So nature is kind of doing a good job with that. It could happen though. All right, Doug. Got a couple of questions still left, and that's it. Have you used Broodminder or other temp sensors? If so, thoughts? Yes, I have used it. I appreciate the gentleman. He's been here before. He has family in the area, and I have tried it. It does work. A scale, a temperature, and all that. He's passionate. He has a great team of people that work for him, with him at Broodminder. I'm impressed. I don't use it because it's just one more thing that I have to look at when I feel like I don't really need to look at the temperature. I don't really need to look at the weight. It's beneficial. I am going to say in other things that I do, I have a lot of sensors on other things that I watch and monitor, but I'm just old school when it comes to watching bees, All right, friends, that's all the time we have tonight for the live stream. I'm sad that it's over. I want to cry. I want to spend all night with you guys. You guys are so fun to be with. My gosh. And I love that you're here tonight. We had a great following gathering in the chat. And so thank you guys so much. Thank you for your donations tonight. We do appreciate all the donations that you make to our live stream. It does cost a little bit to send it out, but we're glad to do it to help beekeepers. And I'm working hard to answer questions tomorrow. I'll be taking some of the questions that maybe I didn't get to tonight and off my YouTube channel, and I'll be doing a green chair video tomorrow where I'll be answering more beekeeping questions from the green chair. I hope I don't have to sit out in the rain and snow. It snowed today here. So yikes. If it is, I may have the green chair in the building. Maybe I'll put it in my workroom, even though it's not completed yet. Oh gosh. I'd love for about 20 of you to show up and go to work in my workroom. Don't do that, but I need that much help, I think. So yeah, look for that video coming out tomorrow. But Sherry, Robbie, and Jessica, thank you guys so much. We're going to have them on to say hi pretty soon, but we appreciate their work tonight. All of you did a great job in asking great questions. Thank you so much for being a part of my Beak Squad live stream tonight. And until next time, keep watching my videos. I'll see you guys next time.